Welcome to our first podcast episode. This is so exciting to be here. Judaism with Altitude. What do you guys think of the name? What do you think of the name?
I think I like it. Honestly, we are debating between Judaism with altitude and also Rocky Mountain Jews, because part of it is we're trying to just profile a lot of interesting people we know. We are a rabbi in Rebbetzin working with young professionals in Denver for a bunch of years now, and we know a lot of people, a lot of really interesting people. So maybe that was Rocky Mountain Jews, which kind of is like my favorite newspaper ever, Rocky Mountain News. I feel like most people don't know what that is and they won't appreciate it. So I kind of like Judaism with altitude.
Yeah, totally. So my biggest fear, this is what I just keep thinking about now, just to get vulnerable right away. My biggest fear in making this podcast is when I listen to podcasts, and anyone who knows me knows I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen on 1.5 to 2 speed, depending on who's talking. So I don't know. I think like my natural is, we're podcasting. It's fast, but maybe
You got to
it's
talk
good
slow
to
and they
slow
can
it
speed
down
us
a
up.
little bit. Yeah, feel free to speed us up. We won't be offended. I think it's actually a great way to do things, but we're going to make it so that you can speed us up if that's what you want to do.
That's right. And the truth is, we've been talking now about podcasting for probably 2 years.
Probably since, I would even say since COVID, for 4 years now, since we had our original precursor.
Yes. Want to tell them about the precursor to this podcast?
So during COVID, we started what we called Live from the Bunker because, like everyone, right, we were stuck at home and we wanted to continue to be teaching, reaching out, connecting with many friends, students, and family. And so we went live every, Tuesday night. We had everyone else in the house who was awake be quiet, and which was a huge feat. And we sat at our table with, remember there was a cord. The computer was plugged in through some cord because our internet wasn't so good in the back of the house.
That's right.
All the way to like the front. We were just figuring it out.
We had a green screen.
Yeah.
Real deal. Just like now, as you can see behind us, anyone watching, this will be made live and available on all viewing platforms as well. So if you're listening, feel free to see what it looks like behind the scenes. And this has been a long time in the making. And one of the big goals, honestly, as our family is growing, we're now blessed with 7 children, is that it gets harder to spend time with each other. It's just more difficult. A lot of voices and people
to be heard
and listened
and validated.
That's right. So we thought would be a good way to spend more time together. So instead of our date night walk, we can just podcast together and spend good time together too. So there's definitely one of the goals. And like I said before, there's just so many people we deal with who are so interesting. So many interesting Jews at altitude, or Rocky Mountain Jews, if you will. And we want to share how awesome they are with everyone. So I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And then we have a lot of just other nuggets to offer, like dating advice or relationship education, that kind of stuff.
Which has been fun for me lately. I've been spending most of my work days dealing with just talking to people, giving dating advice, and making things happen with our new database, our dating database. So if you're sick of swiping, or even if you're not sick of swiping, you could swipe also. If you haven't yet, go to jdenver.org and you can make a profile. And one of us or one of our local matchmakers will reach out to you to see if you're interested in them getting to know you even better so they can make the best matches for you possible. And the matchmakers search on the site and send you matches. Then you can accept or decline. And sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent. I'm just so excited about all this. What's the purpose of today? What's our podcast about today?
Yes. So I think in addition to share the goals of what this is all going to be, which we just did, I think the goal is to get to know us. For those who maybe know us a little bit or want to get to know us better, we wanted to just interview each other and that way you can kind of hear what we're about, who we are, and yeah, I think that's the goal.
I appreciate that you had that idea, because I think oftentimes when people ask us what's our story, that we share it together. Like we co-create it. We co-created it originally, but when we tell it over, we take turns, but we haven't really ever done it like this, where it's just you hear one side or one, about one of us, and then the other of us. So too in relationships, you become one, but you're also two individuals. And it's how those two individuals, who very much, it's healthy to have that individual identity, can also use that and bring that to the table and to come and bring it together. I don't know, it's a beautiful idea.
Totally. So the question is, who interviews who first? We didn't work that out before. We're new to podcasting. We probably should have planned that out, but we didn't. So we're coming to a decision right now.
You want to do me first?
Interview.
I feel like I had like a great day and I'm pumped, and sometimes I'm more tired, but like I feel like today I got this.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's great. So why don't you tell us about, first of all, what you do? Like, who are you? We didn't even tell everyone who we are. So what do you do? And then we'll maybe backtrack to the beginning of what made you you.
Okay, sure.
So who are you?
Okay, I'm Sara Wolfe. I live in Denver, Colorado. I am first and foremost wife and mother to a little, we call her wolf pack. And I have the pleasure and honor to spend my work days connecting with people and having meaningful conversations, helping connect to Judaism and spiritually to ourselves, to become our best selves, and to express that help through the dating process also.
Nice. So you're not like a rabbi, but you're like an educator for this Jewish organization. Like what?
Educator is what I usually write on my form. Like when I went into jury duty, they wanted to know what I do. I think it was a jury duty form.
So you educate
educator.
People.
I don't know if that's exactly. Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I'm an educator. I never went through rabbinic testing, but as you went through it, there were always courses for the wives to help us in whatever role may or may not come along with your job. So I guess in that sense, you could say I'm a fully trained Rebbetzin.
Fully trained Rebbetzin. Beautiful. Okay. Very nice. So before you were a fully trained Rebbetzin, tell us about your childhood, where you grew up, what your life was like.
Sure.
Let's start with that.
Okay. So I grew up in the suburbs in Cleveland, Ohio. Love it. There's no place like it. Love connecting with anyone from Cleveland, right? Like Denver's great. It's different.
Yeah,
it's different.
I hear Cleveland's beautiful this time of year, right?
So. It's hot and humid. There's different pros and cons of everywhere. There's some things, yeah. So I grew up in Cleveland, and I am basically, I have an older brother. So by the time I was 9, he was out of the house. I was almost like a only child for many years with a third parent I could call when I was in high school. Mom and Dad won't let me do this. Can you tell them it's okay? And so, yeah, suburban Ohio. We grew up, my parents were very involved in the Reform synagogue there. So they had their own group. We'd go every week. And I don't know what I would do. Play, hang out in the library, which is maybe where my love of books stems from, is my parents and all those many Saturday mornings in the Temple Library. I was actually, fun fact, I was the interim Temple Emmanuel librarian for a while.
How old were you?
I was probably middle school.
Wow. That's the first awesome thing about podcasting, is I've learned something new about my wife of 17 years, 18, 17. I forgot.
17 sounds good.
Yeah, 17 and a half. That's cool. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, because I was volunteering in the library, and the librarian left.
So
I took over until they found another librarian.
Wow, amazing. So I feel like it's, I could be wrong, but I feel like it's a bit of a unique, I don't know the right words for this, but were there a lot of engaged Jews in the Reform temple that you went to? Like, were there a lot of people there every Shabbos, like regular every Shabbosers, or it was so long ago? I don't
Right.
know if you remember.
Right. So we didn't go as often on Friday nights. We went sometimes, and they did have like their program. There definitely were not a lot of kids there. Saturday mornings also, my parents had like their group, and some of them were also parents, but there weren't many kids who came. There was like one other kid, older girl who came, and so we would hang out. And yeah, still in touch with her, not recently, but years later, which is neat.
Oh,
And then yeah, like I went to Sunday school, so it was Saturday school and then Sunday school.
wow.
But
And did you appreciate going to Sunday school, or was like you had enough school and it was like annoying you had to go on Sunday school?
so to be honest, I don't remember like so
It was
much
a long time ago. We're getting
about
older.
it. But I do remember that like towards the end of it, when I was in probably in middle school, or like yeah, towards the older grades, that um, we had one teacher who very much liked to like push us because no one really wanted to be there, and it was very clear. And he would like say all these things to try to like bring up controversy, to have us like show opinions about things and to care. And it kind of got me like really fired up. And I disagreed with most of what he said.
Hmm.
And I think that's honestly part of like, to his credit, I don't know that this was his goal, but I think like to his credit, he kind of really like helped inspire my Judaism a little bit, you know, like to push me forward. And I remember there was one more kid in the class who wasn't like as fired up as I was, but like who cared somewhat. And he also, you know, like through the years went on his own Jewish journey. So, no,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I feel like for me, it's through the dedication of my parents and then like they're instilling in me critical thinking skills and being pushed to use those skills. And my cousin also like pushed me sometimes and would ask me questions about things that pushed me, that like gave me the courage to really just explore things for myself.
Wow, beautiful. So I think you started alluding to it, but if you could, I guess, help us understand how you transitioned from someone who's very actively engaged in your Reform Temple to now, I think it's probably safe to say you're on the right terms. Terms are often difficult, but you are a Orthodox Rebbetzin. Uh, how did you go from Temple Emmanuel Sunday School to Orthodox Rebbetzin? Like,
Sure.
when did that start? Take us through that.
Sure. So I'll tell you in short because my journey, and I think most people's, are long. Right? We all have, it's so easy to say it was this or it was
Well,
that.
these people listening now might be on a long car ride, so they got plenty of time. So take your time.
Okay. Okay, fine. So
But our kids come home in 27 minutes, so
okay, so
not
that's
that
our
long.
no, no, it doesn't have to be that long. But there are really a number of factors. So there is what I told you so far, and then also this is like God's guiding providence. Really, I was going to day camp. I was going into first grade, and they had no kindergarten aged group. It was like the local day camp where all the Jewish kids went, and so there was a girl who was pushed up into my group, and we ended up becoming friends, and she was like my closest friend. It was both of our first year at the day camp, and sure enough, she lived on my block. We didn't even have to cross streets to have play dates, and her mother knew my aunt.
Hmm.
So all these like fun connections, and really we grew up together as best friends through most of high school.
I'm sorry, what grade did you meet?
I was going into first grade.
First grade. Okay, well,
Yeah. So we would have play dates like after school and things, and then we went to different schools. So I went to a pluralistic. It wasn't really pluralistic. It was more like a, I guess you could say it's pluralistic. Like it was maybe more conservative, but my one of my Jewish teachers was a Reconstructionist rabbi, and yeah,
sure.
one of these day schools. And she went to the modern Orthodox day school. And so as we got older and like we were getting homework, and there was just like less time during the week to spend together and have play dates, so we would hang out on Shabbos. So my family normally like we did Friday night dinner together, and we went to temple on Saturday mornings. But like it was a quiet day. We didn't necessarily like run around and do everything. But like it wasn't like a formal Shabbos, but it whatever. I had time, so we would hang out, and then she got a trampoline, and we would literally hang out all day on her trampoline on Shabbos, or we'd walk around the neighborhood and meet her friends from school. And just like her being my best friend, like through, so much in life, like just growing up together really impacted me in ways when I didn't realize it would.
Hmm.
And then she switched camps to go away to sleepaway camp. And she followed like her brother and her sisters. They were all doing that. And she was the youngest. So she went away to sleepaway camp and she came back and she talked about camp 24/7. I didn't even go to camp with her. But all she talked about all year was was camp. And whatever, I didn't want to go to her camp. It was like way too religious for me. Like, you had to dress a certain way, and like I was not into that at the time. It's just so funny. And yeah. So then she said to me at some point when we were like probably sixth grade, she said there's this thing called NCSY, and there's a Shabbaton, and a lot of people from camp go on this, and you could come and you could meet my camp friends. And I'm thinking of all these names in my head of all these people she's talked about from camp, and like I could meet them, and that sounds so exciting. I feel like I'm like part of their lives already. And so sure enough, sixth grade or seventh grade, I don't know. I go on the bus, we go pick up Columbus. I meet my other like next best friends also. Like at that moment when they come on the bus, I recognize them from my friends' pictures. And being part of this like Jewish group was, I don't know, it made a difference for me. Like it was all just fun and social for many years.
So that's like
But
starting in sixth grade, you became part of the NCSY camp circle.
like sixth, seventh grade. Yeah,
Okay.
like 3 times a year, really what it was is we would go to a weekend away in one of these other nearby cities, Columbus, Pittsburgh,
Right.
Detroit.
Okay. And then at what point so you're socializing with these people and you're enjoying their company? It's more of a social thing. At what point does it become more than that, where it becomes more of a lifestyle choice that you're embracing?
Sure. So it really started, that shift was in 10th grade when we met. So it was it was called NCSY Yarchikala, National Program for Public High School Students over winter break. And there were all kinds of classes they brought in. And usually, like, my friends and I were too cool at the Shabbatons. The classes, the sessions, like, we weren't like really so into it. They tried really hard. They'd push us to go into davening. We'd run into the bathrooms and hide. Like, we were just like too cool. But at these lectures over this, I remember even just like the first day taking so many notes. I was really blown away. I'm like, oh, maybe there really is something more to this than just a social piece. And that's really what like triggered it for me. That started more of my like curiosity coming to the forefront and asking questions and discovering new things.
Okay. Wow. Beautiful. So that was a journey, I guess, that started sounds like in 10th grade, where you really got more serious. Do I ask you how you met me there, or that's a different episode?
I feel like we could put it all together.
Put it all together.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know during this time, I just have some inside information on my interviewee that this is when you met someone very special. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah. So also, can I just like preface with, sometimes I feel bad telling our story because like it was so easy,
Right.
and we work with so
Right.
many people, and
Right.
dating is so hard. And I mean, the reason I partially wanted to get into it and help is like, and like learn about it, is not because I went through it, but because I want to be there and help others. So
Right.
I don't know, it's easy to compare. And so sometimes I'm a little hesitant sharing, but I'm sure in the moment it didn't feel as easy as now. Looking back years later, it's much simpler.
Right.
We see how everything turned out in the end.
Right.
So it was the opening event of this Yarchikala, and I was sitting with those 2 girls from Columbus. I was sitting with one of them, and we were looking around the room looking for cute boys. We're public school 10th graders, and we want to know who's at this event. So I say to her, I found one, and I pointed you out. And then it was just so funny. The other one was making new friends, and she was sitting a few rows up with a girl that she just met, and we met. And then, sure enough, when we go to lunch or dinner after that, I saw the new friend and you talking, and you like sat at our table even because it was your sister. And so really could say, I guess, I met you both at about the same time. And yeah, and I don't know, something clicked. And there's also something to being in that environment together of, we were both in this Jewish environment. We were there to socialize, to learn and grow to some extent. There's some interest in that. And yeah, I think being in that environment also really opens it up to what it became.
Beautiful, beautiful, amazing, amazing. So now after middle of 10th grade, and you've had this inspiration that where you've begun to realize that your connection to Judaism and certainly to the maybe the more traditional way of doing things was more than just at this point social. Uh, I guess if possible, how did that journey continue? Meaning you've gone through that inspirational experience. A lot of times in life, people go through something inspirational, and it's very easy to just forget all of it and to go completely back to how you did things before. So, how did that journey continue for you, even after you became inspired?
Sure. So actually, here's a fun little interesting story. I kind of got pigeonholed into a little bit of it before that. Is as I was switching into public high school. So I played in bands in my Jewish day school, and I played trombone with,
Oh,
yeah, there were 5 trombones in my grade. And actually 4 of us were going on to this one public high school. So everyone's going into band, and my brother did band, and like it was like a good idea in my family. Like, you do it.
for those of you who know Sarah, I'm curious how many of you knew that the Rebbetzin was a trombonist in high school band?
Still do have my trombone in the basement. The kids try it out sometimes. Yeah. But I really didn't want to do marching band. I feel like there was a movie that came out around the same time that had to do with a marching band and like band camp. And I honestly, I wanted no part of it. Yeah. I wanted to be like.
What's that movie called? You remember? I'm trying to remember.
No. I don't know.
Like
it was one of those like
hip hop. It was like a hip hop band.
I think the band was like nerdy.
Oh, fun.
I don't know. I was like so excited for public school. I did not want to be like a marching band person, and the uniform, and just
wasn't for you.
I wasn't feeling it.
Okay.
My friends did it, and it was great for them.
Judgment.
They had a great time.
No judgment.
Yeah. So I wanted to get out of band. So how did I do it? Marching band marches at football games, which are usually on Shabbos. Yes, even at my public high school that was 90% Jewish. Of course, that's just how it worked. And so Friday nights, Saturdays, if I'm not going to be in marching band and play at those games, then there's no point of being in marching band. So that's how I got my exemption, because it's not the norm. Normally, if you're in bands, you do marching band in the fall and concert band in the spring. But I wasn't having it, and I wanted to do band. So I said, okay, I'm not doing Friday night and Saturday. Now where it got complicated is because I was also a 3-sport athlete.
Which sports?
Volleyball, basketball, and then by the time basketball was over, I joined softball, even though I had never played before, just because my friends were, but I was not so good at it.
Not so good.
No.
Wow. Which was your best?
Volleyball is my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I did play basketball like at home all the time and on rollerblades. And, yeah. So, that's why I beat Usher so often.
Right.
Although I think now he's better than me.
She does beat our 11-year-old to go 1-on-1, and she does triumph over him most times. So.
Yeah. Although he's learning new skills now. It's great. It was great beating him before. Okay. So anyways, so I got this exemption not to be in marching band Friday night. So comes sports season, and I'm like, ethically, I can't play games on Friday nights or Saturdays either. And so it really did make a difference. I think like I wasn't able to advance through the team and get as much playing time because I wasn't at those games, and the coaches were not supposed to hold those against me. But I think the volleyball coach in particular was not so friendly and nice about it.
Right.
So yeah, but I still played volleyball and enjoyed playing. So I was kind of stuck. And then there was this other like crucial moment in the drama of my high school years. You've probably heard about this before. I had a group of friends, and one of them was having a birthday party. Yes. And you've heard this, they were doing it at a restaurant. And I just did on a Friday night, and I didn't feel comfortable going to a restaurant Friday night. I was like getting to the point in my Jewish growth. I think this was probably after I met you. I went to that event, and I was like, I want to do more of Shabbos. I was like, if it's at someone's house, I'll go to their house Friday night. I'll hang out there. But like, I don't feel comfortable going to a restaurant and paying, and like, it just didn't feel right to me. And so I told my friends, and that was it. I was basically ostracized out of the group because I wouldn't go to her birthday party.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It like had big repercussions through like the rest of high school. Like those were like my closest friends in the beginning.
Wow.
And I was like no longer a part of their core group.
Was this in 10th grade?
I don't remember if it was 9th or 10th or
wow.
Yeah. So
I don't think I realized it.
Yeah. So it was at that point where like I really learned that I can draw lines for myself of like what I feel comfortable or not, but it gets so hard because when you're dealing with other people or institutions or teams, it is really helpful to have like clear boundaries. And even still, like, you know, talking to people all the time, you tell your employers about the Shabbos, about holidays, and like they're like, okay, but like if I need you, can I call you? You're like, no. Like, they still don't get it, but at least like there are clear boundaries that could potentially be understood, as opposed to like, you know, what I feel comfortable with doing or not doing.
Right. And for those who are not really aware, because maybe you're stumbled on this podcast from like somewhere in Uzbekistan, and you're just not aware of like Judaism and what it's about. The other day, my Lyft driver asked me the difference between like Jew and Jewish. So people just don't necessarily know. So just to speak that out, we have this thing called Shabbos, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about Shabbos as we go. Yeah. But there's certain things that we Jews just, or as Jews, you know, observe this in different ways. But there's certain things that those of us traditional Jews just will not do, and one of them is like, you know, pick up the phone, or you know, we don't use like electricity, and we'll get all into that later at some point. Rest assured, but. So people don't understand that, like, no, like you actually can't reach out to us even if you really, really need us, because we're not reachable. We're just offline for 25 hours.
Yeah. And some of my like college professors had a hard time understanding these things too. And
right.
Yeah. Another place where it was like a boundary in my life was in senior year of high school. I was getting to the point where I wanted to start doing more of kosher, and my family though, as like just how we worked is like Sunday night was pizza night, and we had our pizza spot until it closed. Then we went to Papa John's, and and then another day during the week was Chinese, and we had our Chinese place. And like eating out was just very much, even though it wasn't like every night, it was something we all like look forward to.
So how did you navigate that as you became less comfortable eating that, but your family was part of your like family dynamic? How did you get through that?
So what I ended up doing is I wasn't really ready to fully take it on, and I'm grateful that I had the like intuitive wisdom to do things how I did it. Is I stopped eating out with friends. I remember I went to like Quiznos with a friend, and then it just felt like so wrong. I'm like, this was my choice. I didn't have to like make a date with her to go out to get a sub.
Right.
Like we could have done something else.
Could have gone to the kosher Subway in Cleveland back then.
Probably. Yeah. I just like, so senior year, if it was with my family or if it was for grandma's birthday and we were going, you know, whatever it was, then I ate out. But otherwise I didn't like pursue it or do it on my own. And for me, that was like a really good stepping stone. And then the other just like really big piece, because all this is very nice, but then what happens? Like you go off to college, and then what? Anything can happen. So I was going to a school that there were like definitely no Orthodox Jews, and maybe there were like probably not even a handful of other Jews there. Many people hadn't even met Jews before from New England area of the country. And I decided through much like back and forth that I would take a year and go to Israel first and build this foundation. I remember it was one of like probably the hardest decision I ever made in my life.
What was so hard about it?
It was just like we were weighing the pros and the cons and the pros and the cons. And I was like, okay, it makes more sense not to go. We're weighing like financially, I could get some college credit for it. And, you know, and just like in every way possible in my life and career and what made sense to do. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm not going. But then every time someone, like especially from NCSY or like someone I like really respected would ask me about it, like not even just like you know, just a simple question, I would just start bawling like uncontrollably. Like I never cried like that. And there was like something deep within me that was intuitive that I think that's so interesting as I'm like learning more and more how important it is to trust your gut. And I hear this out of this marriage. We have to get this new book, by the way, this marriage book by Debbie Greenblatt. She was saying on the podcast where she was interviewed how, like, what's unique is she really teaches people to trust themselves and like make the decision like from their own intuition. So I think at the end of the day, I was like, I guess I'm just meant to go. And I remember calling you. I remember stepping outside from the NC Shabbaton where they were like about to announce who's going to Israel and what everyone's doing next year as seniors. And I was just like, I'm going to go. And I'm going to do it. And it was really the best decision I've ever made in my life. I mean, marrying you, obviously, but like that was obvious. Yeah. It was the best hard decision that I ever made in my life.
And so at that point, if I recall, we were dating for about a year, and now you're about to leave for a year. So I wouldn't see you. This is before smartphones and FaceTime and whatever. What was my reaction?
I should say.
Oh.
You weren't like so thrilled about it.
Okay.
Like, are you sure? You know? And I was like, yeah, I need to do this. And it wasn't easy because we were definitely like, our relationship was going very well, even though it was long distance.
Because you were in Cleveland, I was in Boston for her for my freshman year.
Right. Like we had spent some Shabbos together through different events, but like we never lived in the same city. It was always long distance. Right. And it was exciting to be able to, go join you in Boston. But I knew that I needed to do this somehow.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Because I recall, I think what you're thinking now, but I also recall, like, obviously I was sad about it, but I was supportive.
Yeah.
You were. I mean, I was like, I recognized that you needed this. And so you said it was maybe the second best decision of your life behind marrying me. Why? How did that change your life? Yeah. How did that shape your life?
So having the ability to go be in an environment with other girls who were really in a similar place in life and just figuring out, like, exploring Judaism and where is this going to fit in my life? What's my life going to look like Jewishly from here? And learning about it so that I can make it so.
Because I imagine, like, even though you were hanging out, in NCSY, I imagine at times it was probably still, you probably felt like you were alone on this journey, right? That there weren't that many people out there like you, public school people from different kind of background, who shared this aspiration of yours to continue this Jewish journey.
It's a good question. There were a number of public school students on these Shabbatons, but my closest friends all mostly went to day schools.
Day school. Wow.
So among my friends, I was definitely.
Wow. So that year, I guess, shaped kind of the trajectory of your Jewish future and family and how you had gone to lead your life.
Absolutely. I mean, just like to break it down, it was classes all day, like more intense than you would even get in college. It was like it was a whole schedule throughout the day, and we had breaks of Jewish classes on different topics with literally in Israel, you got the best teachers from around the world. And it was just mind-blowing, and we were taking notes, and we're all these girls in this together, and we talk about our notes. And eventually when you got to Israel, maybe you could talk about that more when we interview you. That piece of it, like I'd bring my notebook, then we'd sit down at the central bus station and go through notes and talk about things together. It like added depth to our relationship also. Right. And I really I went hard that year because we were already dating. And, I had my close friends I went with from NCSY. The social aspect wasn't my number one reason for being there. Although those relationships that you make in those growth period times, that there's nothing like them in the world as far as friendships. But I was serious and all in. I went to extra classes during the night when my friends were going out. I was reading tons of books. I was just going to Rabbi Winter and trading out books constantly. I read 21 books that year. And it was really just it built me so much and it gave me so much strength. I think of how I went to this like tiny school afterwards. I'm like, why was I even there? But I went there afterwards and I like went as a Jew, and I mean, like, I don't think I would have had the courage to do that and be so alone there without that foundation.
Oh, wow, beautiful. And how did you end up there at that school?
So I think what you're fishing for is no.
I'm not fishing.
Okay.
Just
So
curious.
so I'll just say, I was in like a commercial art program. I was like, art school, not art school. I decided to go into fashion. So at that school, they had a good fashion program. They had design and merchandising. I was still deciding which one I wanted to do. And conveniently, it was in Boston, 5 minutes away from Brandeis, which I don't think literally anything could have got any closer. You were Brandeis, and I wanted to be close. And I mean, it worked out.
Right.
But I definitely like, as being in the honor society, there were special programs for the honors students, and the president was trying to get us riled up one day of the university. And because no one like cared to say anything, it really reminds me of Sunday school in many ways. And he started talking about the apartheid in Israel. And I was like, are you serious? Have you seen it? I was just there. Like, I've lived there for a year. And I remember I was so mad. I used to like walk up and down the aisles in the library outside his office, like hoping to like catch him and confront him because he was so wrong. And it's interesting, like thinking that was so many years ago. That was what, in like 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
And all these years later, and what people are going through on universities, like that was the precursor.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Wild. Crazy. Okay, so I think we just have about 3 minutes left till our kids get home, so we're gonna call here. But you alluded to the fact that you're going for fashion merchandising or fashion design, and obviously you have gone on to really embrace what we call sneeze fashion, more modest look. Can you tell me how that goes together? I know maybe it's a big topic. It might be an episode unto itself, but give us a little intro. Like, tell me about your fashion background. It's interesting you're going to be a fashion designer, and now you're like a Rebbetzin, like with a different kind of fashion maybe than what you were used to or what you envisioned. Like how does that all work together?
Yeah.
So the last question for today.
I think what drew me into fashion was just the beauty and the colors and the expression. And I mean, I don't think it's contradictory at all, because I think today the way I dress, covering more of my body than the usual fashion industries dictate, you still have that element of self-expression and color, and it can be fun and beautiful. And we're meant to be beautiful. We're meant to look beautiful. We're not meant to like people think humility is like putting yourselves down. And so sometimes modesty is like, oh, I'm like meant to just like look ugly. But no, like it's not the case at all. You are beautiful and you're meant to look beautiful. And I don't think it's contradictory. I'm not as passionate about it now as I was. Although, I mean, I still have to get dressed every day and I go shopping. So it's very much applicable in daily life to some extent. But it's, I think it goes together very well. And we'll find someone interesting to interview and we could talk more about it.
Right. There's a lot of, I think, misconceptions of just about how women dress and feminism and modern sensibilities and modern, looks and whatever it is. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. So hopefully we can tackle that.
I think the basis of it is just like, to close this one piece of it, is when I went to Israel, I discovered my inner world that was like deep, and that was longing for something, for meaning, and that was passionate. And by dressing in a way where my body is less distracting and less being shown, it gives the ability, I think, for my inner self to be more taken seriously. And it's really about covering, not just for the sake of hiding, but for the sake of showing your true self. And when you identify as your inner self, that spiritual being of greatness within you, you don't need to show all this physical part of your body, because that's not your value. That's not your worth. It's a body God gave you to do your mission in the world, and it's a gift. But it's not the part of myself that I want to show to the world, the part of myself that I'm the most proud of. And yeah, I exercise and I eat healthy and I try to take care of my physical body. But like what I'm most identify as me is my intellect and my emotions and my thoughts. And like that's who I am. And that's what I want to bring to the world.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. That's amazing. Beautiful.
Thank
Okay.
you. I feel so like that you interviewed me and asked me these questions. I feel so like heard and validated and appreciated.
Yeah. It's great to,
Thank you.
yeah. And I learned more about you today, which is great. That's honestly, I think one of the secrets of the kids are coming home.
Okay, I'm
So
gonna run and get
we're gonna
them.
end it here, but one of the secrets of depth and intimacy is desire to know more about one's partner, one's spouse, and we always want to be curious and interested and learn more about our beloved. So that's all for today. Thanks for joining us on our first episode. Stay tuned for more. Have a great day.